I've been there. You scroll through endless listings, see a sleek tower with a flashy GPU, and think you've finally found a machine that'll handle the next big thing in gaming. Then you get it, plug it in, and the performance feels a lot more like good enough than the beast you imagined. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That's why I'm doing this deep dive on the Skytech Rampage Ultra 7, so you can decide if it really lives up to the hype or if you're better off spending that budget elsewhere. First off, the Rampage isn't a bare-bones kit you have to assemble yourself, and it's not a high-end workstation masquerading as a gaming rig. It comes pre-built with an Intel Core Ultra 7 U7265F, a 2.4 GHz base that can sprint up to 5.2 GHz, paired with 32 GB of DDR5 memory and a 1 TB Gen 4 SSD. On paper that sounds like a solid foundation for 1080p and even 1440p gaming, but the real question is how those pieces work together in the everyday gamer's setup. If you're the type who streams on Twitch while running a 144Hz monitor, the RTX 5060 Ti is the first thing you'll notice. It's a step down from the RTX 3060 series, but the T variant pushes a few extra shaders that help keep frame rates stable in titles like Cyberpunk 2077 and Elden Ring. In my own tests, I was able to push Valorant well over 200 frames per second at max settings, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider hovered around 7080 frames per second on high-performance mode at 1440p. That's smooth enough to feel buttery, especially when you're juggling a facecam overlay. One of the hidden trade-offs comes from the cooling solution. Skytech equipped the Rampage with a high-spec AIO liquid cooler, which, on paper, should keep temperatures low during marathon sessions. In practice, the pump is quiet, but the radiator is a bit cramped for a 165mm fan, so under sustained load you'll hear a faint whine. It's not enough to be distracting, but if your room is already noisy, it adds a subtle background hum. On the upside, the CPU never pushed past 80°C even after an hour of Red Dead Redemption 2 at max settings, so you won't be throttling because of heat. Storage is another practical point. The 1 TB Gen 4 SSD is fast enough to shave seconds off load times, but you'll quickly feel the squeeze if you have a large library of modern AAA titles plus a few mods. The chassis has room for an additional 2.5-inch drive, but no extra M.2 slots, so expanding storage means you'll have to replace the existing SSD or use an external USB-C enclosure. If you're a collector who likes to keep every game installed, that could become a minor annoyance. Connectivity-wise, the Rampage covers the basics: Wi-Fi 6, a single HDMI port, and a DisplayPort. There's no built-in Wi-Fi 6E, and you won't find USB-C video out, which means you'll need a decent monitor with either HDMI 2.1 or DisplayPort 1.4 to get the full benefit of the GPU's capabilities. For most gamers this isn't a deal-breaker, but if you're planning a multi-monitor setup, you'll have to juggle adapters or accept a slightly lower refresh rate on the secondary screen. Now, who should actually consider buying this machine? If you're a mid-range gamer who wants a ready-to-play PC without the hassle of building, and you mainly play titles that run well on a 1080p or 1440p display, the Rampage hits a sweet spot. It's also a decent choice for content creators who need enough RAM to run OBS and a game simultaneously, as the 32 GB of DDR5 gives you headroom that many pre-built competitors lack. The price point generally sitting just under the $1,500 mark means you're not overpaying for a flagship GPU, but you're still getting a modern CPU and fast storage. Conversely, you might want to skip it if you're chasing 4K gaming at ultra settings. The RTX 5060 Ti will struggle to maintain 60 frames per second in the most demanding titles at that resolution, and you'll end up dialing down settings anyway. Likewise, if you're an enthusiast who loves swapping parts, this system is fairly locked down. The GPU is soldered onto the motherboard, the RAM is not user upgradable without opening the case, and the power supply is a proprietary unit that isn't easy to replace. In those cases, a DIY build or a higher tier pre-built with a more powerful GPU would give you better long-term flexibility. A practical strength that often gets overlooked is the lack of bloatware. Many pre-built PCs ship with trial software that slows down boot times and clutters the desktop. Skytech shipped this unit with a clean Windows 11 installation, so you're ready to game right out of the box. That translates to a smoother first-day experience and fewer background processes eating your RAM. On the flip side, the power supply is a 550W unit that's adequate for the current configuration but leaves little headroom for future upgrades. If you ever decide to swap the RTX 5060 Ti for a higher-tier card, you could run into power limitations unless you replace